Gentlemen, welcome to my little shop of horrors. Today I'm going to go into something that I don't go into much, and that's electronics and whatnot. Being that I'm making all of these knives and stuff for family and friends and wife and brother and stuff, I wanted to be able to etch my logo or name or whatever on the blade. And so I didn't know anything about it, so I looked up etching, and they say, well, we need some chemicals, which can be produced in the kitchen, and we need a electric power supply. So they sell these etching kits for like $200 or $180, and they consist of a 12-volt power supply and a bunch of chemicals and some Q-tips. So I researched this thing, and I found out that I could use kitchen ingredients and stuff that I have laying around the shop of horrors. So one of the things I wanted to get to was the power supply for anything, really. This here is a computer power supply. This power supply is probably 12 years old. I think it's from a Gateway computer that was manufactured in 1995. The fan doesn't work because the fan bearings are shot and the fan kind of just sits there and shimmies. However, the rest of the stuff works. So I want to kind of explain this to you, but I do want to put a disclaimer in. These power supplies have capacitors. These capacitors hold the voltage for about a minute, even after you unplug the thing. So if this power supply is exposed and you're dicking around in there, you can get hit with some pretty serious stuff. So I wouldn't mess around with that unless you give it some time to discharge, or you discharge the capacitors yourself. But anyway, if you go on the YouTube University, you could find out that there's a whole bunch of things that you could do with these computer power supplies, because basically a PC, I don't know about the Apple stuff, but I know the PC stuff is 12 volts, 3 volts, 5 volts, and 7 volts, and that is what runs the system. Okay, yes, we got 120 volts of pixies coming in here, but this power supply distributes everything to the way it's supposed to be. Now, when you look at your basic power supply, you will see a myriad of wires coming out of here. They are yellow, they are green, or yellow, black, red are predominant colors, and then you have a white, a purple, a blue, and a green. There's only one green wire in the whole shimoli. Now, let me explain something about these wires. All the black wires you see here in these harnesses, they are all negative or 0 volts or ground, as we used to call it back in the old days. So all of these black wires take the pixies or electrons and they shunt them back to the ground of the system to complete the circuit. So any black wire is a ground, and any colored wire is a wire that has voltage on it. Now, in a PC, which is pretty much standard, the yellow wire is about 12 volts. The orange wire is about 3 volts. The red wire is about 5 volts. And the blue and the gray wire in there and the purple wire is in between, believe it or not, 5 or 7. The only thing we're concerned about for this video is getting about 12 volts out of this power supply so I can power my etching equipment, which consists of alligator clips, Q-tips, and some household chemicals. So here's what I want to show you. This is what's important. There's one green wire in this whole pack. This is the pack that goes to the motherboard. The big long clip goes to the motherboard. The green wire is on there. If you take this green wire and you splice it to a black wire, it doesn't matter which black wire, I just took the black wire that was right next to it. It tells a power supply that the motherboard is plugged in. Go ahead, fire up. Okay, so that is a switch. Now, some people put a switch between these two. I don't know. I could just plug and unplug in here. So just to kind of show you guys what is happening here, I have a yellow wire at this cable, and I have a black wire right next to it. I'll take my fluke meter and I will plug it in to the yellow wire, and then on the black wire, it could be any black wire. I'll take the second one over, turn my fluke meter on to DC volts. Okay, let it stabilize, and plug this bad boy in. And you will see, I don't know if you could see, but if you can see, we have about 11 volts there. And I don't have a full 12 because this particular power supply, this fan is quivering, and that's the reason why this power supply was no good, because the fan bearings went and the fan doesn't turn, and I think it's drawing some juice. But for what I need it for is to supply some voltage so I can do my etching. And etching has been done with as little as 6 volts. So with 11 volts, it will be fine. And we'll get into that in the next video. But I just wanted to show you what you can do with a power supply. Now, on these power supplies, there's a whole myriad of things that you could do. If you go on the YouTube University, you could find out that you could turn these into a battery charger. You could turn these into a number of things. So when you scrap your computer, this particular computer, as in all my computers, I take the hard drive out and I take it to my gun range. I fire 30-06 and 223 and 45s. I obliterate the hard drive, but I keep the things like the power supply and so forth because they can be useful later on. So here we have a 12 volt power supply, and what I will do is I will take this yellow and this black wire, and that will be the voltage that goes to my etching equipment, which we will show in a later video, which really isn't fancy. It's pretty straightforward. And all we really need to do is throw some alligator clips on the yellow and the black, and then we have our leads. So you could do a whole bunch of things with these power supplies. Most of the time, yeah, let's get this fucking shit out of here. Most of the time, you're using the yellow and the black wire, which is 12 volts and the ground. And then you have to take the green and the black wire to make a switch. Sometimes these power supplies come with a switch on them. This one doesn't. So you plug this in and this is your switch. So you see what I'm saying? But now I have a 12 volt DC power supply that I could use for my other stuff. So hopefully you learned something from that. Don't fuck around inside of here. Remember, there's capacitors inside of here. They take about a minute to discharge. So don't think because this thing's not plugged in, there's no voltage anymore. As a matter of fact, when you do all of this pixie testing, you could see once you unplug it, it still holds the 12 volts, and then you'll see it gradually drop down, and that will be maybe about 30 seconds. So you don't want to get yourself zapped in here. Be careful. But anyway, that's what we could do among a million other things with a 12 volt power supply. So when I etch the knife, I will show you it in action. Until then, we'll see you later.